That was precious. Anybody can fall off of something, but can you jump back up on it? Can you jump on it? That's what I need to know. Yeah, like a little antelope on the Serengeti. Can you do it? That deserves a round of applause. That right there. Oh, yeah. Now, in about 14 hours, we'll find out how bad that hurt. But for now, you have my respect. For yea, I say unto thee, I cannot and will not even try. Figure man that's wise realizes he's got limitations. And that wise man that's going to have peace just accepts them. So I have learned the art of acceptance. And I have to accept that my brother has still got that athletic prowess for which he is famous. Don't you love your pastor and his wife? Yeah. I do. There are people that have come into your life that will confirm to you your Christianity. And then there are other people that come into your life that will challenge what you perceived to be your Christianity. And, well, I better drink some of that before it spills. It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa up here. Oh, yes. But then there's some people that come through your life that confirm your Christianity, and others challenge it. And he has challenged my Christianity over the years. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for him, his wife, and their kids. Aren't you thankful that Bishop and Mother are with us? I made several comments about how much I appreciate him and them this morning. And recently, one time he and I were talking, and we were talking about what a covering does. And a covering doesn't force itself on you. In my house, we love blankets. And there's a blanket about every, 4 feet. And none of them's ever jumped on us. But every time we've needed it, it's been there. And I am thankful for your covering, Bishop. Recently, my wife and I walked through a little valley with her health, and we were being told almost for a certainty by the doctors that we were going to be dealing with a cancer diagnosis with her. And she said, "What are we going to do?" We sat on the couch holding hands. I said, "Well, we're going to call Bishop first, talk to him and Mother. And then we are going to remain. Tomorrow when the sun comes up, we'll still be here. And a week from now, and a month from now, and 6 months from now, we're going to remain." I don't know how to do that without having an apostolic covering. And I don't ever want to have to try. And so I give honor to them and thank the Lord for their covering. Now, on tonight, we're going to read a little bit. And so since we are going to read a little bit, and some of you will get your weekly reading in and can live guilt-free the rest of the week, I'm going to let you seat yourself after you hug somebody. give honor to my wife and children, and thank the Lord for Eliana being here with me. I said it this morning. I remember bringing her through those doors for the first time at about 6 months old, and then last night, almost 16 years later, sitting in the hotel room, she's saying, I'm sitting around over at the desk, and her mama gives her instructions for me, and so she's over there already in the bed with her little sleeping mask on, and Dad, yes, Eliana, it's time to get a shower and go to bed. It's getting late. I'm like, you are talking to grown people. I can stay up as late as I want to. But I did that. I went on ahead and acquiesced because I knew that Bishop had given my wife executive authority in May of 24 that has not been, to my knowledge, rescinded. So there have been a few times in all of this that I felt my liberties and decided I'd flex a little bit. And she said, well, do you need me to call Bishop? No. Believe I can do exactly what you've instructed. But I give honor to them. I want us to go, if you would. Do y'all mind if I just chat a little while tonight? Well, for those of you that do mind, I'm going to do it anyway. I just wanted you to know. Numbers chapter 32, we're going to start with verse number 1. And I don't really know what all the Lord will say and do through this particular portion of Scripture, but we'll just see. Verse number 1, now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. Look at your neighbor and tell them they were blessed. And when they saw the land of, how do y'all say that up here? Now, in Alma, we say Jazer. Is that correct pronunciation? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, keep your mouth shut. And the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle. Now, this starts out, they had a great multitude of cattle. And they look around where they are, and they see this land is a great place for cattle. Compromise never starts with contrast. Compromise always starts with similarities. I won't dwell there, I'm just saying. The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto Moses and to Eleazar the priest, and unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Adaroth and Dibon and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon. Why in the world couldn't we just name them Bob and Wayne and William and Shabam? Well, now there's a name. If I was having another one and it was a boy, I'd name him Shabam. And Nebo and beyond. Oh, dear God. Even the country. This is where that little Bible on the phone, where that little brother will read it to you, comes in handy. Even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle. Now, did you notice that? We just got through saying all those wild names. And then they say, even the country, all of these people say, even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle. And thy servants have cattle. See, we're in a land that's fit for cattle. The Lord smote the land before us, and we have cattle. Wherefore said they, if, this is passive aggression, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for our possession, and bring us not over Jordan. Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war, and shall you sit here? And wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given them? I'm going to tell you something. When you try to justify not doing more, and you do that out loud and you start talking about it, it's never just you that's being affected by it. These are 2 tribes, 2.5 tribes that are coming to Moses, and they're talking to him about what they don't want to do and what they want to do. And Moses' response to them is, are you not aware that what you're saying is causing all of Israel to be discouraged? It's amazing to talk and preach about revival when you're among what we call revivalists. But it's a whole nother ballgame to talk about it to people who don't see any need in it. Now notice what he says. Wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord had given them. And then he says this, thus did your fathers when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up into the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel too. Some things are generational. And some things are just the nature of our flesh. And he's telling them, I've been down this road before, boys. Your daddies did the same exact thing. And look what that cost Israel. When they decided we can't go in there, and the Lord says, fine, that's what you want to do? You want to stay out here in this wilderness? I'll let you. And I'm going to let you die right here too. So he reminds them, your fathers did the same thing. They saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel that they should not go into the land which the Lord had given them. It had already been done. It was already theirs to give and to take. And the Lord's anger. Now he's giving them another little lesson here and a pointer. Pay attention, boys. Your daddies did this, and this is what it cost Israel, and this was the Lord's response to them for what they had done, not just in saying we can't take the land, but what they had done to the people. The Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord. What evil? What evil? This morning we read something very similar to this. The Lord's anger was kindled against them. He chose their delusion and he brought their fears upon their fears. He brought them on them because when he called for them, they would not come. So here we are again. The Lord's anger was kindled against them. He made them wander in the wilderness until everybody in that generation had died that had done evil in the sight of the Lord. And what was the evil they did? They chose what they wanted and what they thought over what the Lord had promised. And behold, you are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of the Lord toward Israel. You're not just going to bring the anger of God on yourselves, you're going to bring it on the whole camp. For if you turn away after him, he will yet again leave them in the wilderness. And you shall destroy all this people. They come near unto him and said, okay, fine. We'll build sheepfolds here for our cattle and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves will go ready armed before the children of Israel until we have brought them unto their place. And our little ones shall dwell in the fenced cities. Now, I told you today I get hung up on stuff. I just want you to remember that. Fenced cities. Because the inhabitants of the land. We're going to go with you and help subdue the promised land for you boys. But let us have time to go back and build fortified cities for our little ones. Because there's still danger in this land that we've chosen. We're going to leave our families and our children at risk to subdue the promised land. But we're going to leave our wives and our kids and our elders back here in harm's way. When you and I choose not to go where God's called us to go, or we choose to stop going where God's called us to go, it may not be you that suffers, but your children are going to pay for it. Everybody that's dependent on your leadership, is going to suffer. And I'm going to pace myself here. Where was I? They came near, they said, we'll build sheepfolds here for our cattle, cities for our little ones. We ourselves will go ready, armed for war, and we'll subdue the land, and we're going to leave these here with fenced cities because of the inhabitants of this land. We will not return into our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. And then they speak a curse over their own families. For we will not inherit with them on yonder side or forward. They're making a proclamation. Whatever God's going to do from this point forward, we won't be a part of it. Whatever blessings are going to come on Israel, we and our children are not going to benefit from it nor participate in it. For we will not inherit with them on yonder side Jordan or forward, because our inheritance is fallen to us on this side Jordan eastward. Moses said unto them, if you'll do this thing, if you'll go armed before the Lord to war, and will go all of you armed over Jordan before the Lord until he hath driven out his enemies from before him, and the land be subdued before the Lord, then after you shall return and be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel. I want to make the statement here too. I know I keep making a lot of stops. One of the scariest little principles in Scripture to me is, as is illustrated on multiple occasions, there comes a point in the conversation between us and him where he finally realizes, for me to keep arguing with you is going to put me in jeopardy of violating your will. And so there is a point in our debate with him about why certain things may or may not be necessary for me to do, that the Lord will stop talking to you about it. There'll be no more conviction. There'll be no more nudging. There'll be no more compelling. And there'll be no more voices sent to call you forward from that point. That will be the last place you hear from God. Lot, for goodness sake, angels sent from God spent the night in his house. They smote the crowd with blindness. And somehow, after all of that, managed to deliver him and his family through that mass of humanity outside the city walls. And when they got there, they tell him, now get thee up into that high place which the Lord's prepared for you. Lot's response was, oh, I pray thee, don't make me go there. To the will of God. And his excuse for not wanting to go, Brother Hugh, was, lest some evil thing should overtake me. I would have never believed that to be something possible. But I can't tell you how many times I've watched that thing play out in the apostolic church, where we begin to find all the negative reasons for pushing on and walking by faith and doing what God's called us to do and being what God's called us to be. And we will find all of our own little nuanced excuses for it, but basically it's the same thing that Lot said. It's not good for me to do this. Nowadays we don't pray like we used to because we don't have to. We don't fast like we used to because we don't have to. We don't study the Word like we used to because we don't have to. And everything has become about a heaven or hell issue. And is this heaven or hell? So let me answer that for you. Whatever it is you're asking, is it heaven or hell? It is. Because it's conviction that causes me to ask the question. And if I've got a question about whether I should or should not pray, the answer is I should be praying. If I've got a question about how I should or should not live, the answer is live according to that book, just like it's in that book. But the enemy is good at what he does. Remember what I said, that's compromise. And I'm not talking about just holiness. I'm talking about our integrity in walking with God and serving the Lord and being in a relationship with him. Ask any married people. Being married is awesome until it's not. Oh, it's bliss at my house. The devil is a lie. It's bliss at your house sometimes. But I have found this out. The longer we go not talking to the one we say we love at home, the harder it is to talk to them. The longer I go not speaking to my wife, you listen to me now right there on that front row. You just better pray the Lord to let you eat chat grass, and you just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk until you're tired of talking, and she'll be happy. My wife don't like it when I don't talk to her. And she don't like it when I sull up and just won't say anything. But in my mind, I'm doing her a favor. Because if I say what's in my brain, then we're going to have some more conversations we need to have. But it's better to have that conversation when you need to have that conversation at that moment than to let it build in isolation and then find yourself in solitary confinement. But the longer I go being resistant to that conversation and resistant to that relationship, the harder it is for me to get past my pride and acknowledge some things to her. First, I was wrong for being stubborn and hard-headed, and I'm sorry. Ain't a amen. You boys in this room, y'all so scared. And I found this out with him too. The longer I go not talking to him, the easier it gets not to. And the problem with not having an encounter with God on a regular basis, and I mean, we come to the house of God, we ought to have one. For God's sake, we ought to be able to have one here. But even at home, if I don't have an encounter with God at home, in the car, on the job, doing whatever it is I'm doing, the longer I go from my last encounter with him that left me humbled and prostrate in the floor, the less I feel the need to have another one. And it's amazing to me how we let our environment and our circumstances and our opinions get between us and him. What then shall separate us from the love of God? Not things present, things to come. There's a couple of things seem like to me that they don't really talk about in that. The past and my flesh currently. My flesh can get between me and him so bad. Well, I don't find myself just dumbstruck when people do something goofy and then can excuse why they did it. But I am terrified about a person who knows what's right, knows what they ought to be doing, and can justify not doing it. That's what scares me. These guys have gotten into this little rut here, and the will of God's out in front of them. But they're living in a land that's good for cattle. The problem is, that good cattle country was not where he called them to be. And this land shall be your possession before the Lord, but if you will not do so, you've sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Build you cities for your little ones, folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. There comes a point, Lot, when he says, I'm afraid some evil thing's waiting on me up there. In that moment, the Lord's done arguing with him. He's done reaching for him. He's done trying to convince him. And he asked him the question, then you tell me what you want. You and I better be afraid to our core should the Lord ever ask us that question. When the Lord gets to the point that he starts asking you what you want, you are in serious jeopardy. Lot says, let me go to Zoar. Y'all know what Zoar means? It literally means a place of small things. And it was tucked away in the corner of the very place the Lord said, I'm about to wipe this whole place out. He gave up a high place in the will of God for a small place in the middle of destruction. And then was so bankrupt of any moral integrity when all this is over. Out of a measure of self-preservation. Everybody wants to get mad at Lot's wife and talk about what trash she was. She done turned around. Where was Lot? Where was he in the great foot race of that day? Where was he at? Why was she able? And I'm going to tell you something. When you start backing off of what it is God's called you to do and be, it won't be long until you abandon everybody around you too. You won't care whether they prayed. You won't care whether they're living right. You won't care what your kids are watching. You won't care what your kids are listening to. You won't care whether your spouse's walk with God is healthy or not. It all then becomes about you. And it's going to cost you. But it doesn't stop there for Lot. Lot's resistance to the will of God now, he finally gets up on the side of a hill somewhere and he's in a cave. And all the debauchery that followed after that, oh my. Nefarious behavior. Whew. And now we have a generation of people that are still in the world today that are a result of all of that folly. Saying no to the will of God never just affects you. It never just touches you. When you say no to the will of God, it's going to affect everybody around you. I recounted the story this morning about when Bishop kindly told me what he felt like the Lord wanted us to do about going to Singapore all those years ago. And here I've been waiting 40-something years to be a dad. And there she was at 5 months old. And I didn't want to go to Singapore. And the Lord and I know y'all all saved and sanctified and washed by the blood. But me and the Lord still have conversations about what I don't want to do sometimes. And this was one of those times. And I'm informing the Lord. In case you haven't noticed, I have a 5-month-old child here, 6 months old. And you want me to leave her for 10 days? For goodness sake, Bishop, I told you, he called pastor and said, have you seen his passport? And made me pull my passport out and show it to pastor on the way to the airport to ensure that I was going to get on that plane. And in that whole back and forth with the Lord about what I didn't understand this, and I don't know why this is necessary. My God, there's a church full of people at Antioch that could go to Singapore. Why in the wide world do you want me to go to Singapore, and does it have to be right now? And the Lord spoke to me, and he said, the best thing you can do for that family you're so in love with is obey me. But don't you ever let them be the reason that you won't obey me. Because I can remove everything that gets in the way of your purpose. And since then, I told you this morning. I don't mind saying it again. I'm into energy conservation. Have been all my life, even before it was famous, among them tree-hugging people. I'm telling you right now, I've been saving energy, so I sit down on everything I can find. Not worried about your energy, but mine's pretty important to me. But all through my time as a parent, I have very rarely, if ever, left my house without crying. Last weekend was one of the worst I've ever had. And I got in my vehicle. My wife followed me out into the garage, Bishop. Bless her heart, she's trying to be so sweet and kind to me, and she's telling me I love you. And I just got in my truck and shut the door. I never said come here or sick 'em to that woman. And I didn't because I couldn't talk, because I was crying so bad. I backed out of my garage, pulled to the end of my driveway, put it in park, and I was so mad at God. You are making me leave again. And for the last 8 or 10 weeks, it's been home a day and a half, 2 days if I'm lucky, and then gone again. And I sat in that driveway and I cried like a child. And then I found myself standing on the edge of that promised land with these 2 tribes and a half tribe. And it dawned on me, and the fear of God got a hold of me. Are you really going to try to reason with me and explain to me how it's good for you to stay here and not go there? And I haven't found a place. As a husband or a dad, I haven't found a place that's safe for me to say this is enough. I haven't found a spot anywhere as a man of God where it was safe for me to tell the Lord, I've sacrificed enough, I've given enough, I've gone enough, I've done enough. I'm gone from home anywhere from 240 to 265 days a year on average. I spend more nights in hotels than I do in my own bed. I love my status with Delta, but I'd really like to not have it. I love all the miles that I can use to take my family on vacation, but there's some days I'd rather just pay for it. Because to have that means there was a sacrifice over here. And I'm telling you the truth. I'm being honest with you and transparent. Y'all can all hide behind whatever you want to, but there are a lot of days staying home, Sister Boyer, would feel a whole lot better to my emotions. My kids have had some of their first while I was out of town. I've watched the first tooth be pulled on FaceTime while I was out of town. I've watched this happen for the first time by video or by FaceTime. And while I'm thankful for all of that, I don't understand why I couldn't be there to see that happen. Why is it that I couldn't be in that room? Why couldn't he walk the first time? Why couldn't they say that word with me in the room? I'm thankful for FaceTime, but it's not the same as being there. And in all of this, there have been many times that I thought this is a good spot. I've even had conversations, Brother Middleton, with people, not our bishop. No, I know. But I've had conversations with other people. Not seeking counsel, just asking questions. Do we ever get to retire? And the answer is always no. Is there a point possibly where this is going to change and I'm going to get to do it my way? The answer is no, not until his way is my way. The Lord's never going to deter from what I'm having to do right now to please him, just to let me do what I want to do. And the day I find myself doing what I want to do, I'm probably lost. But there have been those moments. But every time, and I thank God for it, because it's not my doing, it's him, it's his conviction. But every time I have reached one of those points that I feel like is an impasse, and I just don't know if I can get past it. My daughters, Eliana will be 16 in September. Erica will be 16 in October. Malachi just turned 9. Patrick is 14. And somewhere along the way, I want to be a grandparent. And I'd like to be a grandparent before we're buying diapers for me and the grandchildren, too. Can I get a witness? Somebody? No, don't witness that one. If it had been left up to me, I wouldn't have been 42 when I became a father. But I can take you to the spot, my mom's driveway. The night I was on the phone with Brother Shatwell, and we were talking about it, and he said, have you got any word on children? And we were about to go through the process at Tupelo Children's Mansion. And in a moment that I had not planned for, there was no script for it. I said to him, no, David, I don't have a word about that. Nothing's opened up. But you know what? At this point in time in my life, if having children is going to prevent me from doing the will of God, I'm giving them back. And when I said it, I lifted my hands up like this in my mom and dad's driveway. And it was like, I can't even explain to you what happened. And I fell down on my knees in that driveway and grieved for the briefest of time, and then began to rejoice because finally I had given back to him what belonged to him. And I knew right then and there, Sister Johnson, whether I was ever a dad or not, this was not going to be what kept me from going into the promised land. And that's not easy to say, and it's not easy to think, and it's certainly not easy to do. And a lot of times the things that keep us out of the will of God are not some horrible sin. Sometimes it's not adultery, it's not fornication, it's not drug addiction and alcoholism, it's not gambling, it's not pornography, it's not a bad mouth and cussing all the time. Sometimes those things that keep us from doing what he wants are the things that we want to do and offer him and say, this is good. But there's a consequence to that. Daniel prayed, and the angel of the Lord finally gets to him, and he said, at thy first words, Brother Spriggs, at thy first words, heaven released me in your direction. I was sent with a word for you the first time you prayed. Yet he prays beyond that another 20 and a half days because there was opposition to what. And I'm going to tell you something. When you make a move toward God, and when you die out to your flesh and you begin to say yes to him, you're not just setting heaven in motion toward you, you're starting the enemy in motion toward you too. And he knows that when submitted flesh finally comes into alignment with the Lord, there's something that happens. And the only option he's got left at that point is to try and delay it long enough for our passion and our fervency to fade. And I'm going to tell you something. There have been a lot of promised lands missed because we allowed our fervency, passion, whatever you want to call it, focus to be obscured. And when you look at it, it wasn't sinful. It wasn't a sin that caused me to change course. It was complacency. What would make 2.5 tribes of Israel knowingly put their families at risk when the promised land was just across that river? And you want to know how absurd this whole deal is in my mind? Y'all remember what happened when they went into the promised land, what the Lord did? Anybody remember that? He parted the river. Brother Bray, they went across on dry ground. And it's like, to me, it's like the Lord was reaching to those 2.5 tribes more than anybody else. Everybody benefited from it. But it's like he was reaching out to those 2.5 tribes one more time, telling them, the miraculous is here. Stay the course. Go get your people and come on. But they went across on dry ground, but had to swim back. He ushered them into his presence, as it were. He delivered them into the land of promise through the miraculous power that only he could come up with. And then he let them put their lives at risk to swim back across that same river to a land that was good for cattle. But you notice what they didn't say it was good for? They didn't say this is good for us, because they knew it wasn't where they had been destined to be. When we begin to justify a diminished prayer life, we're in trouble. When I can justify without any twinge of conscience not having spent time with him, I realize the flow is what the Lord gives it to be, and the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, and there are times that flow is powerful like a raging river, and there's other times it's just a gentle bayou flowing in the low places. But I'm talking about not what happens in that space, but that we never lose sight of it. When I'm no longer conscientious of the fact that I haven't spent time with him, I'm in trouble. When it gets okay with me that I haven't had a moment here and there with him, I'm in trouble. I'm not headed for trouble. I'm already there. And the enemy, being what he is, will cause everything else to assume importance in our life and consume our focus and consume our diligence to do the will of God, to the point that we no longer see the need to go forward. And I'm not trying to slam or be negative about anything, but I said it this morning. By the time the 4 Gospels were written, the Passover lamb was standing in the street, watching them. They never knew he was there. They never invited him to be a part of what they were doing at all, and couldn't have cared less whether he showed up or not. And whether you and I want to acknowledge this or not, that's the direction your flesh, our flesh, my flesh will take us every day. We will get to the point that we begin to justify, well, I'm a good person. I did a good deed today. And you know what causes most people to do good deeds? Selfishness. We do good deeds to make us feel better about ourselves. But the love of God flowing through us, that's a whole nother story. But we begin to say things like, I was at church. I went to church. I've been faithful. I haven't missed a service. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves talking to a Moses figure in our life. Maybe it's just the Lord. Maybe it's pastor. Maybe it's ourselves. Reasoning with ourselves as to why it's not necessary to go any further. They were willing to build their homes in a land that the Lord only intended them to conquer and pass through. And you and I better be careful that we don't get enamored with what we've conquered, that we don't become so impressed with our military prowess and we dominated this land, so we're just going to occupy. It don't matter what happens after you've passed through it. If somebody else had taken the land after they had gone through it, it wouldn't have made any difference. Their job was to conquer it and get safe passage through it. Because all that was ever intended to be was a path forward, a direction for them to take. And I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes we're looking for the least resistant path to find our direction in. I am 58 years old, will be in a few days. I have traveled for 30 years. I've been in the ministry 30-something years. And you can argue with me if you want to, and you'd probably be right. But my assessment of this thing is, devils are not our problem. Demonic spirits coming among us, oh, they're among us, but we don't know it because we're not anointed enough to deal with them, so they hide. But they come among us. But that's not our problem. Our problem is the fact it's 7:22 right now. Our problem is clocks and calendars and expectations of people. When people began to look at it and say, well, we've done enough, we've prayed enough, we've fought enough spiritual battles. I had a man on a pastoral staff call me from a staff meeting, stepped out with his pastor's permission and called me, and he said, Brother Shelton, you remember years ago when you were here and our pastor asked you what we needed to do to get more whatever and have more opportunity for people to come be a part of our church and all this? I said, yes. And he said, do you remember what you told Pastor? I said, yeah, I do. I told him he probably ought to start a Sunday night church. Y'all had an hour and a half on Sunday morning, and that was the only time y'all run the electricity down there. How in the wide world are you going to grow acting like that? And they didn't have any home groups going, no small groups, no anything. Just gathered up for an hour and a half of expectation of flesh, did their routines, and went home and couldn't figure out why their church wouldn't grow. And I said to the pastor, well, just, me standing here looking this whole deal over, we were standing in their parking lot. I said, if it was up to me, I'd start another service on Sunday, a prayer meeting or something. Do something. And so here we were 2.5 years later, 2 years later, hadn't been long, and they were already fatigued with it. And that pastoral staff member called, and he said, Pastor gave me permission to call you. And I said, well, why are you asking me all this? He said, well, we feel like we've done this long enough. And we don't see any need to keep having 2 services a day. He said, Brother Shelton, that's taxing. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. Don't you run up in here talking to somebody who's busy 7 days a week and tell them, I don't care who it is, how hard it is to work one day. Hello, somebody. And I'm so weary with this weak mentality we've got in the world. We want a wall around the city, but we don't have a mind to work. And I'm going to tell you something. You can't hire revival done. You can't buy growth. I screamed and yelled this morning. Y'all not getting that twice in one day. Well, you might. You keep sitting there quiet, I'm going to start yelling at you. Not really. And I said, finally, so why are you guys wanting to cut it out? And he said to me, he said, well, Brother Shelton, quite honestly, to be just totally transparent, nobody here needs 2 church services a day. Well, quite frankly, I don't care if you have 1, 2, or 10 in a day. I don't care. But the fact that you don't think you need more of anything? I said, okay, well, are y'all going to start some small groups? It's good for us to get together, iron sharpeneth iron, and we're going to have prayer meetings. Are we going to do anything kingdom-oriented outside of this night to replace this with? No, sir, we're good. I said, well, go back and tell your pastor, have at it. I wanted to argue the point. I wanted to make an argument with him. I wanted to state some things to him. Just like that, Bishop, the Lord said, I'm not talking to him anymore. If that's what they want to do, tell them to do it. And the chilling part was the man of God that had the courage or the desperation to ask that question to start with no longer had the strength to ask that question on the other end of it. And so he sent somebody else to do it for him. Probably so he could say, well, the people. Had a man one time, one of his pastoral staff members had come to talk to me, and they were struggling with some stuff, and I asked a few questions along the way, and finally the response to one of my questions was, well, you know, Pastor loves the people so much that he's just, you know, we're just kind of backing off of some things because he realizes that we're living, you know, in a world where we're raising children. I'm like, what in the name of God do you think is going on here? We've been raising kids since Who Flung the Chunk? We've been doing this a while. What are you talking about? Adam and Eve were raising children. What in the wide world? This is not some new deal we've come up on. Are you with me? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? And it wasn't long that a third of that church, marriages were in divorce court. A third. It was a decent-sized church. And then my phone rings again. Can you please come help us? No. I wanted to. But the Lord wouldn't. I don't know what came of it. There's an expiration date on our conversations with him. Our debate and arguments with him have shelf lives. And when that expiration date gets there, only the Lord knows when it's coming. But there will come a point that we argue with him long enough. Or, Brother Shelton, I hadn't said anything. Okay, but has he called for us to come up higher? And we wouldn't answer him? Well, Brother Shelton, you know what it's like to go to midweek church. I go to 5 midweek services a week. What are you talking about? I'm tired at every church service I'm in. I'm tired right on tonight. My schedule, usually, I fly out on Fridays or Saturdays. I try to do it on Saturdays. And when I hit the ground on Saturday night, there's something. Sunday morning, there's something. Sunday afternoon, there'll be something. Sunday night, there's something. I fly home, and I've got a Monday night engagement, either in person or online. Tuesday night's online. Wednesday night, my wife and I teach the hyphen class in Fort Smith. Thursday night, I may have a little bit off, and somebody may call, and then it starts all over. And by the way, in between, I got to be a dad and a husband and cut grass and do laundry and all the good stuff. So don't be talking to me about how tired we are when we come to the house of God. But I haven't found with all of that, all of my griping and complaining and murmuring, I have not yet got to the point for which I give God thanks and credit, that I have got to the place that I'm willing to go and have a long, sure enough conversation. Oh yeah, fussing and venting, that's one thing. But when you get to that point that you begin to try to reason with God and explain to him, I've thought this deal through. I've got a plan, and I just need you to give in to it and let me have my way and do it my way. Here's my plan. Here's what I'm going to do. This is what's best for me, and I don't want to do this. I had a young man call me not long ago, and very powerful man of God, very powerful ministry. Brother Shelton, I need some advice. Okay. And he began to talk to me about an offer that had been made to him, and it was an attractive situation. And he talked for an hour, trying to convince me to just say okay. Is really what it came down to. And when he got through, he said, "So what do you think?" I said, "Well, here's what I think about it. Does this particular deal solve this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem?" And it was things that we had talked about in the past that were issues for him that he just didn't like doing. It wasn't impossible, but it was stuff he did not like having to do. because it kept him from doing the stuff in his life that he wanted to do. And so I listed those problems off that we had talked about before, and I said, does this solve that? He said, yes, it does. And I'm thankful to God for that, Brother Shelton. The Lord's just made a way. I said, this is not God. Anything that comes into your life that makes it easy for you to crawl down off that cross that you've laid down on and been crucified to is never God. Ever. And if you think that the promised land is filled with unbroken people, I'm going to tell you right now, the unbroken people are the ones who negotiated terms to live in the wilderness out here in a place they never should have lived, should have only passed through. The broken people are the ones you find over in the promised land. They're the ones that are so broken that it does not matter how many more rivers we've got to swim to get there. It don't matter how many more mountains we've got to climb, and it don't matter how many more battles we've got to engage in. And I'm going to tell you something. There will never be a time that you and I are doing the will of God that the struggle is not right there beside you. There will never be a day that serving God comes without a struggle. And it won't be a day in your walk with God that opposition is not there. The enemy is going to be there. You can't move toward God and the enemy not move in your direction at the same time, trying to prevent you from getting to the will of God. And the will of God in your life is where we're all trying to get. And it's not just a destination of this is it and no more, but it's what's next. The will of God is always about what's next. The final destination is heaven. But in this world, you will never reach a place where you say, this is all there is. And if you do, you are out of the will of God. I don't know why, but it's not unusual. There have been at times as many as 42 couples in my house. Young preachers asking me questions about ministry and about the kingdom and how to be successful in the kingdom. I don't know how to be successful in the kingdom. I have no idea. Because for me, the measurement of success in the kingdom is, have I died today? Kingdom success is about dying out to this flesh every day. That's what the word teaches. Mortify the deeds of your flesh. Die daily. But there's this miscommunication among us that seems to communicate and try to convince us that all you have to do is die once. One trip to Gethsemane is going to do it. It didn't. That trip to Gethsemane was for today. It may have just been for this morning. Anybody feel a witness? I know this isn't popular, and we'd like to be running aisles and headbanging the walls, but there are going to be a lot of people running the aisles on Rapture Day and still going to be running the aisles when that's over with. But there won't be any unbroken people, probably in eternity. But there won't be any broken people left here on that great gathering up. I want to go to the promised land. But what I have found out about my flesh in my little short lifetime, y'all remember that song they used to sing? Well, now you younger people don't remember it, but you more mature saints will remember. They used to sing it like Sunday school. Excuses, excuses, you hear them every day. Anybody remember that one? My God, there's two people back there in that. Where were the rest of y'all at skipping out on Sunday school? But it said, excuses, excuses. You hear them every day. The devil will supply them if from church you'll stay away. And it's true. But it's not necessarily the devil that supplies them. Your flesh will do it. We would resist it if it was Satan. If it was a demonic spirit standing in front of any of us, telling us, do this, don't do that, you don't have to, we would fight everything that come out of his mouth. But when it's me telling me that, I don't resist that. I embrace it. And without conviction And without the fear of God, what a mess we're in. I said it this morning. I'm going to say it again. Complacency. I was in the hotel this morning before daylight. And about, I don't know what time it was. The sun wasn't up yet. And maybe between 5 and 5:30, I don't know. And that thought came to me. Complacency will kill revival. Complacency will kill passion. It'll kill the pursuit of God. It will kill relationships. I mean, just every kingdom thing you can think of, complacency will destroy it. But complacency is easy to justify. We don't see it that way, but my leg hurts, my head hurts, my back hurts, my stomach hurts. I think I'm going to have a toothache in 30 minutes. I don't want to make it worse. And we'll find every reason. It's cold in here. Hush your mouth. Talking about it. Eat some bacon grease. Thicken that blood up and them arteries up. My God. It's hot in here. I don't want to worship. I'll be hot. I remember the days that little Chester Spriggs be down here just hopping around like a cricket on crack. Just the whole service. I don't know where he's at or if he's still doing that or not. But I told his story everywhere. That brother would just be drilling it out right up here the whole time. And I remember a time there were young men lined up across the front of Antioch, arm in arm, in the high school auditorium the first time I saw it. I remember one dancing with a gold chain around his neck, just nearly knocking himself out that thing. It wasn't long. Wasn't long. He'd been saved and sanctified and washed by the blood and was just doing what God had called him to do. I remember those days. But that brother Spriggs, whoa, your son, he was a laser-guided missile when church was over. And it was like you were going to be a part of what he was doing, whether you danced with him or not. Because if he got to you, the brother wasn't going to just shake your hand. You're going to wear that boy's sweat to the house. I'm telling you right now. I had a light gray suit on one day, and the brother accosted me right now. Boom! Just run up on me. He still had his suit coat on. I know he was dehydrated. You can't leave that much fluid on somebody else's suit. And when he broke away from me, I was trying to make it a quick embrace. You know, God bless you, pop out and go. No, he was in it for the long haul. I'm talking about, oh, Brother Shelton, I love you. So, brother, you got to back up off. But he didn't care if anybody was going with him or not. You let somebody touch a keyboard around there talking about, bah! And that dude come unhinged. And it was contagious. Anybody remember that? I heard some people one time talking about, I don't believe after the Holy Ghost. Well, I know your attitude's not, so sit down and shut up. Going with him, that's contagious. Staying here is too. You're going to influence a lot of people with everything you do and with everything you don't do. You leaders, I'm going to say this to you. When you're willing to let a time together pass, knowing full well we have not broken through whatever it is in the spirit we need to break through, you're sending the message to everybody following your leadership, it's okay. Oh, I know y'all don't shout me down now when I'm doing good. If my leadership won't press, then at home I don't have to either. Everything you do is contagious. Everything that you do is, and I know we live in a let's don't be offensive world. Hush your mouth. Every topic in that thing you call a Bible is controversial. There ain't one topic in there that everybody on this planet has ever agreed with at the same time. And he made it real clear, too, on that whole deal. I didn't come in here to unite everybody. To unite the body, yes. But I've come like a sharp sword, and I'm going to pierce and divide asunder. And the Lord's not looking for the ones who can do the best at what they do. I've said this in your hearing before. Noah was not given the job he was given because of what he could do. He was given the job because of what he would do. And I've watched us get jealous of how God advances ministries and people in the kingdom, Brother Ewan. It's like, well, why won't the Lord open that door for me? Because you won't do what he told you to do. No unbroken people are going to have the Lord open doors and advance their ministries. Ever. Well, what if they advance? Then they did it. But for me to get there, and you mark it down, you're not going to get to that river crossing once in your life. You're going to get there over and over. And have you ever noticed too, I know I'm long before you tonight, more than I thought I would be, but I'm leaving shortly, so y'all be all right. This whole deal about, I heard a preacher one time make a statement. He said, I don't know why pastors, I was at this church and the staff was around and the pastor was talking to him about stuff he wanted out of them. And this preacher standing beside me said, Brother Shelton, I don't even think I need to be a part of this meeting. I said, well, he asked for the pastoral staff to be here. Yeah, I know, but I feel like I paid my dues. If I say to you how many people in here are saved, don't do it. But most all of us would raise our hand and we'd all be wrong. Because this isn't heaven. We've been granted salvation. But this isn't heaven. And there will never be a moment in your life where there's not a challenge. In Scripture, when the Lord says to everything, there's a time and a season. Have you ever noticed that the majority of those examples starts with something being torn down or cast away? A removal of one thing before something else is established. When your seasons change in your life, the Lord will dismantle the stuff that was necessary for that season. Because he knows us. And we get so accustomed to it and enamored with it and in love with the stuff that we had in that season, that it doesn't matter how gentle or how firm his voice might call us forward, Sister Gross. I'm going to look around and see what I've got, see where I'm at. And there's something in every human in this room, I don't care how sanctified you think you are, every human in this room has a tendency to say, I'm tired, I'm weary, I'm worn, and I've done enough. This is good cattle country. And then it wasn't just that. They speak a curse over their lineage. Not only are we not going, but our children are not going either. Not only are we as the leaders and heads of our home and the warriors of our 2.5 tribes not going to share in the bounty of that victory, but we're setting it up so that our children don't either. I don't know what my children will do when they're adults. I'm not even going to start down that road. I don't know what they'll do. I don't know if they're going to go to college. I don't know. Eliana and I were talking about that yesterday. I don't know what they'll do. I'm not going to force them to do one thing in as far as their education. But I can tell you this much. It's like I told you this morning. At my house, at my home, we're going to build a house for him. And I don't ever want my children to get the communication or the input or the influence from me that we've done enough, that we have paid enough of a price. And there are times that my kids come with me on these trips, Brother Kimbrell, and I'm glad they're there because I want them to be in the services where I'm preaching. I want them to be a part of my ministry and whatever those efforts may be. But I also want them to know that you don't get something for nothing, that everything we do and everything we have and every good and wonderful thing that comes from the Father above comes with a price tag. Salvation to you and I cost us nothing other than repentance and being willing to die out to the old man. But everything after that is going to cost you everything. Every day. Never will it end. And I want my children to grow up understanding that you don't just get an anointing because your daddy had one or your mama has one. Just because their mother's an intercessor does not guarantee that they're going to be. But if we intercede in front of them, and if we tell them, I know you're weary and I know you're tired, but this is not where God has called us to. It's what he's given us to pass through. It's something he gave us this to conquer, but not to make our identity. And some people in the kingdom get to the point that you want to take your victories and make that your identity. And you want to build a monument here and a monument there. And you want to remember this and remember that. And we lose sight of what's ahead of us because we get enamored with all of our conquering. And churches can exist in good cattle country, but they cannot do the will of God in good cattle country. We started teaching that hyphen class, my wife and I did, 4 or 5 years ago. And the brother that had it had grown it to a point, and I think when we got there, they had some that had left out, and it was down to about 5. And so we were glad to try to help. But I started talking about relationship on night 1. And Brother Wright, it went, and it went, and it went, and it went. And for 2 years, all they heard me talk about was relationship. Relationship. One form of it or another. One element of conversation about it or another. It was always about relationship. And it wasn't like I went into this with a plan. I went into this like an interim deal. I wasn't going to be here long. And here I am 5.5 years later still at it. And last Wednesday night, there were nearly 60 young adults in that hyphen class. And a move of God hit that room about 40 minutes into it. And I'm telling you, when I tell you those young people started praying, I'm not talking about some now lay me down to sleep, a bag of candy at my feet nonsense. I'm talking about intercessors and travailing prayer and young adults getting up and ministering to visiting young adults that have not received the Holy Ghost yet, and they're baptizing them and all of this stuff. I don't care. I don't care if they ever stand behind the pulpit. I don't care any of that. What I care about is that somewhere inside of them, all it takes is a whiff of his presence. All it takes is the slightest scent of that anointing in the air, and they realize this is not where I'm called to be. I was called to come here and to conquer this, but this is not supposed to be my identity. I've got to press beyond here. The disciples, I got to go to my seat, but those disciples, what I think was one of the greatest miracles, in my opinion, just my opinion, maybe the greatest miracle, Brother Mallory, they had ever been a part of to this point. 5,000 men, plus all the women and children. Some writings I've read about it say there could have been as many as 15 to 20,000, maybe more. The Lord decides to feed them all on that sunny afternoon. I don't think that he filled every basket. They'd go out, dump it, come back, get more. I think that he started that process, and it was like the cruse of oil and the meal barrel, that as long as there was a need, that flow was there. Have you ever wondered what would happen? This is a sidebar, but have you ever wondered what would be happening right now with that cruse of oil if they had still kept finding empty barrels? I personally believe if they'd have kept finding empty vessels to pour it into, it'd still be giving out oil. These disciples are a part of this great miracle. And one translation, it may be the contemporary English, I don't remember, but one translation, the King James says that when it was over, and they gathered up all the leftovers, and straightway the Lord. One translation, I think the contemporary English says, and immediately afterwards, the Lord required them, made them, commanded them to leave. And I asked the Lord, I said, why did you, this is awesome. And you don't even give them a chance to stay there and see and bask in it and remember and recount it and debrief. You sent them late in the day on a multi-mile journey across a body of water, knowing there was a storm coming because you were the one that orchestrated the whole deal. He said, well, first of all, there were things about me that they were never going to know in those seasons of the miraculous. When I'm providing, they only know that. But there was a need for them to know me in a way that they would never know me on a sunny hillside feeding 5,000 plus people. And I needed them to know that whether you're feeding and living in the land of plenty or going through a storm, I'm in both places. I'll be there with you. I won't let you fail. And then the Lord said to me, but I also needed them not to take ownership of what I had done. there would have been no sea story to tell if he had let them live there. And sometimes it doesn't seem fair that we go through great seasons of anointing and it's like miracle after miracle. Ask Philip, how do you think that brother felt? He's in the greatest revival of his ministry. And the Lord don't even tell him, now go get your little satchel packed and get on the boat and get over. No. The Lord just reaches down and gets him, plucks him up out of that revival and drops him off out in the Serengeti somewhere and says, now I got somebody out here for you to reach. Well, my flesh would be thinking, okay, well, I left that revival. This must be a greater revival. And here we got little Phil done dropped off out here on a dirt road, and the Lord says, and by the way, you're only going to talk to one person, and he's getting away from you in that chariot pulled by a couple of horses. You better get to running. He goes from the ease of church to the work of a wilderness. And he may have been baptizing them in marble baptistries for all I know. But you know where he baptized that boy? In a mud hole on the side of the road. God knows what he's doing with our life. And before we ever get to the place that we're able to take ownership for what he's done in one season, he may let the sun go down and a storm come along to help us transition into that next place. But when you stand there, somebody come play melodiously, give us a little hope. But when you find yourself in that transition, and the promised land is a never-ending place. It's what's next, and what's next, and what's next. There will never be a moment in our walk with God in this life, I've already said it once, where we arrive at anything. Are things going to change as we move along in time? Certainly. We have air conditioning now. Ain't nobody sitting up in here with a funeral home fan talking about. We're not swatting at mosquitoes with coal oil lamps on the post over here. Things change. But the word never changes. Our pursuit of that should never change. We will never have apostolic results with academic efforts. You cannot strategize, plan, you can have 7,000 tag-in meetings a year, and they will not produce a revival. Before we have a harvest, we have to have a reviving. How many in this room would be willing to step out and say, I need to be revived? My walk with God, I'm standing at a place that, there's about 13 honest people in there. God bless the rest of you. I got mine up not as an example, but as a witness. I need a reviving. Brother Brace, sometimes the travel and all the stuff, I get dull, get a little jaded. And I find myself, Sister Evans, standing at a place and thinking, this is a good spot. Let me build one more memorial right here and be done. And then I remember I've got a sister that's still away from the Lord. I got nieces and nephews that are not serving him. I got 3 babies that I cannot leave in this wilderness. I'm not willing for my children to grow up thinking that church is an uneventful place. Eliana, hear me when I tell you. It's worth praying until your throat's sore. It's worth travailing and interceding for this. It's worth leaving here looking like a hot mess. Because you cannot get any other way or any other place what you can find in his presence. Spend me where you want to then. But don't leave my babies in a conquered land. Bishop, don't let me not go ahead. I'm begging you. I'm thankful for your covering. But light a fire under me when you see the one I had going out. When I forget I've got children that need to be in the presence of God, please, don't spare me anything. Don't worry about my feelings. Tell me, Scott, you're not doing your job. Because my flesh wants what everybody's wanting. Retirement and a place to relax. But Mother, I hadn't found one yet. I hadn't found a place to relax and give half where my children will be safe. I haven't found a place where I can back off and my soul won't be in jeopardy. Spend me where you want me. I don't care. Just don't leave my wife and my kids in a wilderness. I don't want my family to ever think it's okay to live in a conquered land. But we've got a journey in a promised land. We've got to keep moving and pushing. When you're exhausted and it's late at night, it's okay for your children to know you're up praying. It's okay for your family to know that whether you want to get on that plane or not, you're going to go get on it. I don't want to be deceived and lied to by my flesh, telling me that I've done enough. I haven't done enough. This isn't heaven. And I want you to go with me across that river, but I can't depend on you to do my job for me. You can't cross that river in place of me. I can't get there playing on my phone and reading emails and text messages and playing solitaire on my phone during the church service. I can't get there goofing off when His presence moves through the living room of my home and I feel Him calling me to come across. And I think to myself, I've just had a shower, I've just got comfortable and settled in for the night. Lord, I just laid down in the bed. This is a good enough place. Just talk to me here. If I don't get up, my family's in jeopardy. Brother Middleton, if we don't push, our family's going to pay for it. And I know at your age it would be easy to let our flesh say no, but I'm telling you, Elder, don't quit pushing. Don't quit pushing. Our babies and our grandchildren are going to pay for it if we stop here now. If you've got young children, teach them how to push. Teach them how to be willing to follow Him. I'm going to my seat. You can do what you want to with all of this. I've done what He told me to do. I've completed my assignment to the best of my ability, but now your assignment begins. I said it this morning, but husbands, get your wives, find your kids if you want to, do something, but pray. Husbands, make a commitment. Jennifer, if you're watching, I'm telling you, we're going to go across that river. We're not going to stay over here and get complacent. Me and you and Eliana and Erica and Malachi and Patrick, we're going across. We're going to go. There's going to be days, Jennifer, it's going to be tiring and exhausting, but we're still going to go. We're going to pitch our tent in a new land tomorrow, and the next day we're going to be in another place. Not staying here and risking my family, risking my soul. I'm entreating you and begging you even on this evening, please, 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 please hear Him and respond to Him.